This episode is brought to you by Nordstella from the team behind NordVPN. Nordstella helps startups and scale-ups spot, leak credentials, dark web impersonations, and hidden exposures before they turn into breaches. Get 20% off when talking to sales with code BlackFriday20 at nordstella.com/startupradio. Offer ends December 10th, 2025. In this episode of Startuprad.io, we dive into AI-powered future of identity and access management, where real-time cloud security, agentless deployment, and non-human identity protection are becoming essential for enterprises. If you're a founder, CISO, investor, or enterprise IT leader navigating the zero trust area, this conversation with UnoSecure's CEO will give you a front row seat to how the next wave of identity threat detection, cloud compliance, and SaaS security innovation is being built in Berlin, and where every B2B SaaS startup should be paying attention.
Welcome to Startuprad.io, your podcast and YouTube blog covering the German startup scene with news, interviews, and live events.
Today, I'm joined by Santosh. How to pronounce your family name? I would say Jayaprakash.
No, it's Jayaprakash. Jayaprakash.
Jayaprakash. Sorry for butchering your name. The founder and COO of UnoSecure, a Berlin-based cybersecurity startup that's rethinking identity security in the age of AI, because every AI can more or less impersonate a person. Santosh is no stranger to the challenge of cloud security. Before UnoSecure, he built and scaled Anker Cloud, helping enterprises transition to the public cloud. But it was during those engagements that he spotted a critical vulnerability nearly every company ignored: the chaotic sprawl of user identities across cloud environments with no unified system to manage them securely. That realization led to UnoSecure, an agentless identity security platform that now helps companies detect real-time threats, manage non-human identities, and automate AIM risk remediation across AWS, Azure, and beyond. Backed by 5 million seed round and already trusted by major enterprises, customer UnoSecure is quickly becoming one of Europe's most exciting deep tech security startups, and Santosh is the visionary leading the charge. Welcome.
Thank you so much for the kind invitation, Joe.
Totally my pleasure. We already heard a lot about you. Let me start with the first question. Can you tell us a little bit about your personal journey, and how did this, as a founder, lead to the creation of UnoSecure? We had a little bit teaser in the intro.
So, I'm Santosh Jayaprakash, and I'm from India, but been in Germany for the last 7 years. This is my third venture, so I'm not a rookie entrepreneur, I should say. This is been 18 years in IT infra. I started my first company in 2015. It was called PowerUp Cloud, very early in the game of cloud data AI. So I built a company called PowerUp Cloud, based out of India, scaled it to Singapore, then to US, then to Netherlands, and then got acquired by a large NASDAQ listed company. This was my first entrepreneurial experience, built a 200 people team in 3 years. So that was built something like Datadog. Maybe you heard of this platform, which is in cloud observability. So pretty early in the game. Then my wife is Deutsch, so that brings me to Germany. We lived in India for 5 years, 2013 to 18. And she invited me to come here. So I came here. Then I started another company called Anker Cloud, which I still own. As of today, it's 140 people. Does 15 million in revenues, profitable, runs by itself. I have a leadership team who run the company. During this process, I always wanted to build something global, ambitious. And I thought, okay, why not a security company coming from Germany, based out of Berlin? So that's how UnoSecure was born. And I started this couple of years ago as a research project, which came out of Anker Cloud, when we worked with a lot of customers migrating to the cloud. And then the whole curiosity was, how do you stop evil while it's happening in the cloud? That's kind of the hook. That's the hypothesis I started chasing, and which led to the company.
It's also interesting because you could start human hackers with human speed, but in the age of AI, I think that's something completely different. But before we move on with our questions, I have two less serious questions. I want your honest opinion of the state of Indian food in Germany.
Indian food in Germany? I think I should say the answer is no comments. Yeah, I mean, not even remotely close, but still there are some good spots in Berlin, and I'm in South Germany, in Frankfurt, and Stuttgart. I've tasted some good food, even in Munich. Yeah, big cities.
Actually, what I like here in Germany, in Frankfurt especially, is Savannah Bavan.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I was going to, right? So that was a good one.
In Frankfurt, strong recommendation, very small hidden place, Mera Masala. But before we get into the next serious question, one more I usually do. When you moved here from India, did you bring warm socks?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good question, right? I had funny jackets rather than bad socks, right? So I had to throw away all my funny jackets, and then I had to get it. And funnily enough, I've never seen snow in my life. So only in Germany I get to see first time when I was like 26 or 27, right? So
How do you like driving in snow and ice?
oh, that's a good question. So definitely not enjoyable or relaxing, right? So I think my wife still does those duties, right? So I'm still a bad driver in Germany.
I think it's the same case for many people. When you're ice on snow, usually your smartwatch sounds the alarm, right? I know that feeling. For those in our audience unfamiliar with what exactly do you guys as UnoSecure do, and why is it relevant now? Can you do a little bit of explaining here? Can you break it down Barney style?
Yeah, awesome, Joe. So let's the simplest way I can explain is there are bad guys everywhere, right? So let's take the scenario of somebody has got keys to your house. He's a bad guy. He will find 100 ways to get keys to your house, right? So if he wants to rob your house, they find ways to find the keys. So as a bad guy or an adversary, what do? I take the keys, I come to your home, put it in the door, open the door, and then, yeah, I do my job of cleaning the house and take all the valuables and run away. So this is typically how it works. So now apply the same scenario in the context of technology, right? So your passwords, your keys are stored in different systems. There are hacker groups who are looking for these keys and credentials, and that's all they need, right? So they log into your systems and then they steal your data. So there's like Bitcoin mining, data theft, or ransomware attacks. So the whole idea is, what is your defense mechanism? Is how soon can you detect? Or like, let's say if in your home you have a security system which detects. So in 10 minutes, if you're able to get the robber run away or chase him out or make some noise, or like, the neighbors help you, somehow you have some mechanism that you can safeguard your property. But in technology, we apply the same, right? So there's no system which is able to detect this in real time and what these guys are doing inside your system. And that's the best analogy I can give you, right? So it's like somebody has keys to your house. How soon can you detect and respond, right? So that's exactly when you apply in the technology world. These days, all attacks, 80% of all the attacks that you see in the last 2 years are credential theft. Somebody has keys to your kingdom, they just log in. They don't break in or write cryptography or exploits anymore. So and we are kind of the layer which comes in, which can detect and stop those attacks and avoid those bad guys to harm anything that's happening into your system.
Before we get into the next question, I was wondering, you have somebody who, for whatever reason, lost or got his credentials stolen. Could be as simple as a Trojan on their home computer or in the network or something. How can you, as UnoSecure, detect that it's not the person that is supposed to log in? Because I would assume if the alarms are raised, if those credentials are stolen, they wouldn't work. But if you have working credentials, how does the intruder alarm bell ring?
Cool. So we connect to all these core systems like your cloud, your on-premise, your identity providers like Microsoft, Entra, or Okta, and also to your SaaS platforms. So based on which we we've done a lot of threat hunting based on which we detect. So there's a framework called MITRE ATT&CK, so where we detect like credential theft, initial access, privilege escalation, privilege drift, and all those things. And we take a bunch of signals, right, which is based on IP, based on like, where this identity is accessing things from. And there are multiple signals that we create, or we call it the risks. And based on all those combinations, we create an issue. So that's the R&D we did for 2 years during the early days of UnoSecure, right? So we have this unique research-driven approach where we build like toxic combinations, or we call it conflicting combinations, based on which we detect, and we do that. And now maybe I can also give an add-on. So now with AI, so with humans, you can have like a single sign-on system or an MFA. Like for example, like you log into a system, there's a second alert where you have to confirm, right? But when it comes to machines or AI, you cannot protect the front door. So you're fully exposed, right? So the problem becomes like crazy big when it comes to non-human identities or AI agents and all those kind of modern day systems, right?
For everybody who's not like a technical genius, like obviously you are, basically the issue is that now you do have programs, computer software that are talking to each other. Plus you have also increasingly, I think we're just at the first step of that AI agent that doing something on behalf of their coders, of their owners, however you want to call it. That's basically the problem when you need to distinguish between a proper AI agent from client X and a non-proper AI agent from hacker Y, right?
Kind of, right? So maybe I'll also try to simplify things, Joe. So it's like, let's take, I mean, how do a company consume AI today, right? There are three different ways, right? One, they buy coding tools, which is like, which you come across like Cursor, Replit, Windsurf, Google, like, GitHub Copilot, these kind of tools. That's one way they consume it, right? And second, they buy, their internal teams built using Anthropic or OpenAI frameworks, right? So basically like Claude or, all those kind of tools. And the third way is all the SaaS platforms selling their own agents, like Salesforce agent or ServiceNow agent. So these are the only three different ways today's companies consume AI, right? Or like, there's no other way they do it. Now, if you speak to a security team or the C-level folks, now, how do they authenticate between each other? What are they doing? There's absolutely no clue, right? So that's where we come in, right? So now, how do they authenticate? What kind of permissions they get? What kind of access they have so that they can form? And this is the future, right? So we are building it for the future, right? So these are some of the problems we solve with AI, because currently there's no mechanism existing first. And even if companies like, Okta and others are like coming up with authentication protocols, but then you have MCP, or like, from a layman's standpoint, how do you even have view into what these identities are doing? Like, what are these agents doing? How are they authenticating with each other? What kind of access they have? Are they overprivileged, or do they have more access than what they need to do their jobs? Or if an attacker comes in, how do you even detect that? Okay, it's really Joe or somebody behaving like Joe, right? So all those kind of scenarios is what we kind of do with UnoSecure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and thing is, I do see the challenge for the future for everybody. I was wondering, what was your aha moment when you realized identity was the new security parameter here?
Yeah. So in the realm of the modern day, right? So if you look at back in the day, it was network was the perimeter, right? So in some years ago, then it became all the infrastructure, and now it's the identity, because almost every system, all you do is log in, right? So now logging into a system is just you use some kind of let's say an authentication mechanism to get into the system. The wow factor here is that, okay, now you like, if you're a big company, you have like different systems. Now for a CISO, I don't know what I don't know. That's their problem. They don't have a vantage point visibility of what's going on in all these different systems. Though they have different tools doing different jobs, like app security, product security. Identity was 3 years ago still an IT team's problem, not a security problem. Now identity is a security team's problem, right? So these are kind of the the kind of things that you can uncover connecting a system like us, or like platforms which can communicate or authenticate between each other. So that's where it's same day ROI. You just connect, within 15 minutes, agentless deployment, and you can connect even like find the AWS accounts or like, all your different systems, and you're able to get a vantage point view of what are these identities, what are they doing, and are they overprivileged or not? Are they accessing, like, is it really me or somebody? So all those kind of perspectives or the visibility aspects that we uncover creates those aha moments for customers, right? So that's one of the reasons why this problem is becoming more increasing. And with more and more systems and tools moving to the cloud and companies adopting AI, we don't see this. This becomes the only perimeter that companies will have to invest in protecting. Yeah.
I was wondering what makes your agentless identity security platform stand out from all the other identity and access management tools?
Great. So traditionally, identity is one word overused. There are like 200 different variations within that. There are three different scenarios, right? Authentication, authorization, and accounting. So we come in after somebody logs in, right? So we don't protect the front door. So there are companies like Microsoft, Okta, and others who really master the game. So the biggest USP is if we come in after somebody logs into the system, we study kind of like, we do something called as activity-based access control. And for AI, we do task-based access control, right? So these are the kind of scenarios that we come in. So we do agentless. The reason because no attacker waits 24 hours. If you have to achieve, right, you have to get runtime visibility. You need to be fast. You need to be there to make sure that you get customers the visibility into what's going on. So getting runtime at that scale, that needs a lot of technology, and you need to be novel and technically defensible. So that's how we operate, right? So you connect and then you get going. You just make connections to the platform, and then you are able to get the visibility and start solving your first problems.
Mm-hmm. And you just said you detect the potential threat after the login. And how do you detect that in real time without completely overloading the security team or the systems?
Yeah, so we kind of connect to like an average enterprise will have like thousands of AWS accounts, or like at least 200 SaaS applications, right? From Salesforce to all these different systems. They have at least 2 identity providers, right? So now we connect to all these different systems, right? So and it's completely agentless, no installations, no sidecars. You just connect. So we have those onboarding workflows built in. So we set up a tenant for a customer, and they can make connections. We take only read-only writes, right? If they use our SaaS platform, and immediately the data starts coming in. So we consume only the metadata, right? So we don't get into the PI or the sensitive side of things. We kind of consume those logs. So through which we are able to bring those correlations and visibility for the customers. So you just makes connections through different onboarding workflows that we have built. And there is no installations, no sidecars. There's nothing that customers will have to do other than that. So we set up a tenant. So getting started is super fast. We made that very easy for our customers.
Very fortunate, especially for the non-technical guys like me. For our audience, I was wondering, do you think identity sprawl across platforms is the number one security risk enterprises face right now? Or are we overestimating it? Drop your take in the comments. Have you seen this problem in your organization or portfolio companies? We've been talking a little bit about theory here, Santosh, even though a lot went already over my head. But can you walk us through a real-world use case, perhaps in fintech or healthcare, that do protect especially sensitive data where UnoSecure made a critical impact?
Cool. So we have a lot of customers in the financial services, a lot of banks. Some of our banks, we have even production banking customers. We work with a lot of healthcare, and these are the 2 most regulated industries, right? So with finance and health, when it comes to, and for them, regulators are not fun, right? So if you speak to any CISO, and then how do you manage the data? So it's not the easiest jobs they have. Now, in all the scenarios, 80% of any kind of issues they come across is all identity related, right? So every auditor wants to know, how is Santosh using his access? What did he do in the last 6 months? Did he have access to this or not? How do you get all this information, right? So this is a tedious work, and I'm just giving you one simple example of what's going on in such companies. So we have a lot of customers, especially when it comes to healthcare or like banking, like ISO, SOC 2, NASD, now these days DORA, and all those kind of compliances that comes up with. 80-90% of the questions are identity related. And there is like if you look at OWASP top 10, I don't want to go super technical, but OWASP top 10 is like the top security issues, right? So the number one spot has been identity for at least, I think, at least for the last 7 years, right? So it's still not solved, right? So that's kind of the opportunity we go after, right? Because it's the pain is so big. Customers face it day in and day out, and then skill gap is also big, right? So big companies, if you look at them, how do you it becomes a siloed problem. They have like different tools. Currently, everybody has invested in authentication and identity management, but the missing piece is identity security. They don't have toolings which helps them in achieve the identity security that protects their sensitive data, right? All the PII and all the different kinds of data. That's kind of where we come in, and we have customers who use us for multiple purposes. We have more than 40-45 different use cases that you can achieve out of it, starting from a simple visibility to even auto remediation, right? So all these kind of different scenarios we help customers. We have reduce their identity sprawl. We have increased some of their engineering and feature velocity because they could govern just-in-time access and just enough privileges for their engineers. Nobody needs admin rights. You come across multiple scenarios in different customers. Healthcare and financial services, banking are some of our from UnoSecure sweet spot, and these are the kind of customers that we work with currently as well.
Mm-hmm. Before we move into market and the business model, I was wondering, how often do people or AIs attempt to hack your week?
Yeah. So, I mean,
he's smiling. A lot of people will just listen to it. That's why I need to tell them he's smiling.
So I think AI. So AI is good. I mean, there are also bad guys using AI. So definitely, bad guys using AI is these days more than less, right? So it's easy for them, as I said. So if you go to a lot of companies suffer. Like, for example, there's this concept called info stealers. I mean, if you Google it, you'll see it. That's a very common way that people use. And then they use AI for social engineering, phishing kind of attacks, right, to grab credentials so they can get into system. So there are AI-driven, like security companies helping with prompt injection, LLM jacking, and these kind of, like if you look at Israel, US, or India, US, there are a lot of companies which are doing that. But still, identity takes the front seat, right? So with AI, again, it's going to be identity. Yeah, AI can be used for good and for bad, but off late, there's a lot of bad guys using it, and they've been pretty successful with it. Maybe I'll put it that way.
You didn't give us a number.
So, I mean, it's like, I would say at least 40-50% of attacks that you come across are like some kind of like even these days we came across one scenario where there was a DDoS attack. They tried using AI, so like pumping IPs and creating these repeated models. So there are a lot of many studies. I mean, OWASP is a very good place to look at those metrics. So OWASP has also released quite a lot of AI-driven threats and stuff. I'm happy to share more there, Joe.
And actually, Santosh, you know what I think? At one point, there will be a hacker dark AI, and it will be called Darth GPT.
Yeah, probably somebody already bought those domains, right? So maybe that's the scenario, right?
I'm very confident. Let's talk a little bit about the market and the business model. So what was the hardest feature to build, and what trade-offs did you face in building it?
So definitely the achieving runtime capabilities, which is real time, right? Doing it in real time is one of the hardest because static scanning. Yeah, I mean a lot of companies do that. I mean, as I said, no attacker waits 24 hours. Now, if I'm not able to find things while it's happening, the curiosity of how do I stop it and processing that level of data at that scale and still your system capturing all those different things, correlating all the information and doing that. So achieving that, we did something called as test-driven development, right? So we tested based on last 90 days of data for 1-2 years, and that's how we achieved. I would say that's the most hardest feature, but then everything else, building on top of it first, much easier, right? So that's why the first 2-3 year of formation was more about how do we get to runtime? How do we get to real time? How can we get those visibility of risks at that speed? So those were kind of the difficult features, I would say.
Guys, we will be back after a short ad break, but stay tuned. Right after, we'll dive into how UnoSecure's B2B SaaS model scales fast without friction, where enterprise buyers are betting on their agentless identity fabric, even in a cautious market, and how new innovations like Uno Copilots and Uno Board are redefining what real-time identity control looks like. You won't want to miss how they're turning compliance into a live dashboard and why their 5 million seed round is just the beginning. You move at startup speed. Attackers move at real speed. NordStella, built by the team behind NordVPN, gives you one clear advantage. You see what they see. Leak credentials, partner session hijacks, brand impersonation, all under one roof in real time. Trusted by security leaders across Europe's fastest growing startups, it turns cyber chaos into clarity. For Black Friday only, apply code BlackFriday20 when talking to sales at nordstella.com/startupradio for 20% off your plan. Valid until December 10th, 2025. NordStella. Know what attackers know before they act. Welcome back from the ad break, and I still have Santosh here with me, and let's dive in straight into the question because we've been teasing your B2B SaaS business model. How do you scale that with customers, and what's your core GTM strategy?
Yeah, so currently we offer it as a security SaaS platform because it's easy to onboard but with regulated business, we also do private instance deployments, right? So within their environments, sometimes then we charge them 2x, 3x because we are sharing our IP. But typically, the SaaS model works. And even if you look at AI companies, all the AI ones are also subscription models, right? So so this model is scalability. So we charge based on number of accounts they connect to the platforms, like number of connections they make, instead of number of identities, because humans you can measure, non-humans you cannot, right? Because some engineer will create something and then it's there in the system. So there's no way. So our pricing works based on the number of connections organizations make to the platform, and it's scalable. I mean, even the largest retailer in the world is one of our biggest reference. So if we are able to handle that scale, I think we can handle anybody's scale. That's we have achieved those kind of capabilities already that helps customers to like it's fully enterprise ready. We already have all the credentials that's needed, like a SOC 2 ISO and also GDPR. Like all the different kind of penetration testing reports. We went through so many vendor questionnaires with already our large customers. So yeah, so we offer it in SaaS, but for case to case, for large banking and very regulated businesses, we also do private instance deployments in their environments.
It's not necessarily that they are boring, but as you said, the regulators, they don't understand any fun in this area. You have very high hurdles to jump over in order to do some security, some AI or any other stuff. So the main focus of banks is security. That explains a lot of the on-premise stuff. What makes you appealing to enterprise buyers in today's cautious funding climate?
Good question again.
We try our best.
So, like, I mean, I think security investments, I think every company has to make because, and they all carry budgets, and identity security is in every boardroom these days. There's approvals for everybody. So far, we've not come across a customer who said, okay, I don't have budget for this platform. Usually it's, even if they don't have, it's rolling budgets. They try to find budgets in the next budget runs. With enterprises especially, they have 12-month financial ratio. So you start a POE, and then if they, I mean, based on the ROI and the business case that we could build, they always find budgets for the next years. And when it comes to identity security, I mean, even 2 years ago, it was a lot of education that I had to do. Customers didn't understand because they'll say, hey, I have cloud security platforms. Why do I need you? But since last year, the things have changed, right? So it's much more easier now. It's not, I should say, it's not that difficult to explain to a customer why it's needed. And since a platform like us is not a replacement sale, where we are not kicking out platform X and getting in, it's more an educational sale. Usually we are an addition to their existing security stack, right? So it's always finding budgets. Definitely the funding climate is difficult in the market, but generally customers have budgets for security because they have to invest, right? So that's why after AI, security is kind of the hottest market in the world, right? So like if you look at all the VC funding, probably not in Europe and DACH, but if you look at US and Israel, almost security companies raise the most after AI companies.
Totally makes sense. If you have seen once the damage a hack could inflict on any company, and if you're a smaller company, that can mean the end of your existence as a company. Let's talk a little bit. Yep.
If you look at, I mean, the recent one I can share is Salesforce, right? So, I mean, there was a sales loft attack 6-7 weeks ago, even a lot of big companies across the globe. There were 700 companies affected because of this one single issue. This was based on a non-human identity. And this is something that UnoSecure covers by itself as a feature.
I don't want to know how much damages and missed revenue this generated, but let us go into growth and vision. As we already said, you raised $5 million US. What are your immediate priorities, and where will you be as a company in 12 to 18 months?
So, I mean, we are doing we did a seed round early this year, right? Somewhere around March. Since then, we've been focusing on hiring and sales, right? So we are purely doubling on everything that we are doing. So we have onboarded a lot of new customers, and we have a clear GTM plan. So the immediate goal is that we raise a Series A, right? I think we are close to getting there to kind of raising our next funding round. And our biggest vision is, how can we become a category winner? There's no clear category winner in this space yet, and why not that be us, right? So that's kind of the big vision we carry. And and we are a Berlin-based, Germany-based security company, and not many have pulled this off. So our goal is to already go consecutive markets, and big vision, right? So we are nothing pretty ambitious. We already have international customers, and we are going consecutive markets. The end goal would be, how can we be the category winner, right? So that's kind of the big vision.
Santosh, you've hinted at AI copilots and Uno board. How do these innovations change the security game?
Oh, great. So this is the future of UnoSecure, right? So, I mean, with more and more companies and organizations and everybody using AI, and with so much push in enterprises towards adopting AI, though it's all at POCs today, in the future, we expect this to go mainstream, right? So for us, we need to stay relevant, right? And we are building for the future. So these kind of features are going to help customers to secure their AI, and especially from an identity angle, as I said before, agents to agent authentication and task-based access control, just-in-time permissioning for these kind of agents, and what kind of access do they need to do their tasks, rather than giving them an admin right, which they would easily leverage, right? So all these kind of scenarios. So that's kind of what we are working on. We are also working on converting a SaaS platform into an agentic platform, so it can be more conversational for customers as well. But when it comes to security, it's still a lot more visibility that customers need rather than just conversations, right? So, and then we have something called as a findings database that we have built, where we bring all this vantage point view, and there are a lot of AI features that we have planned. For example, in the future, we are expecting we will launch an agent which will automate an IAM engineer's task. And these profiles are very sparsely found in the market, and companies struggle to hire these talent. For example, how can an agent do the task of enforcing least privilege? How can an agent do lifecycle management of an identity? So you'll be lodging all those independent agents, which will be doing separate tasks and helping those IAM engineers and security analysts to improve their identity security posture.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For our audience, Santosh is talking a lot about AI and cybersecurity, but our audience, I would be curious, guys, do you think AI will solve more problems or create more problems in cybersecurity? Comment down here in the show notes. Santosh, what's your long-term vision for UnoSecure? Could this become the next category-defining security company?
Yes, as a founder, that's my ambition, right? So, and definitely, I mean, we have the right team, we have the right structure, we have the right kind of audience that we are going after. So, I personally think, and also the team believes that if we are able to execute, and the speed of execution that we are focusing on currently, I think we have all the foundations that's needed for us to become a large player in the industry. But at the same time, like any startup, you'll have to go through those journeys. You cannot skip those steps, right? It's like playing a video game, right? So you need to hit certain levels. But yeah, I mean, becoming an independent identity layer as a company for all the customers that we are working with, definitely yes. And the big goal is how to get to 80 to 100 million in the next 4 to 5 years, right? So that's kind of what we are chasing.
Mm-hmm. Looking back, what's one thing you would do completely different as a founder?
I think entrepreneurship is like a disease, right? You do once, and I think you always want to do it again. So, and I think with my previous 2 stints, I had some experience. I think if you specifically ask me from an UnoSecure angle, what I would have done differently, I think we were ahead of the game with our research and what we did. So probably, we had to do a lot of education with very less resources in the industry compared to most other peers from other markets. So some of those messaging and positioning exercises would have been different. And I rushed to start, probably, I would say. I mean, starting in Europe is hard. But I think starting in Germany is painful, right? So I think that's all this kind of red tape and bureaucracy stuff that you go through. It could have been a bit more easier had I had a bit more, some more experiences, or I would say rather a bit more setup changes that I had that could have helped me. But otherwise, I think the market is big, the opportunity is big. So I wouldn't do a lot of things differently. Probably, I would say those 2 points that I mentioned, right? So I would have done it differently. But and then initially, I was also talent was another problem, right? So initially, when I was looking for people here especially in these areas, skill sets like cloud security and as well as development, finding somebody with all these 3 skills was very hard. So that also delayed a lot of R&D that I wanted to do. Then I started a team in India, in Bangalore, that kind of accelerated some of my stuff as well. So a lot of learnings, right? So if I start again, definitely I'll apply all these learnings.
And when you come to Germany, bring warm socks.
Absolutely.
Getting into one of the last questions here. What's your boldest prediction for identity security by 2030? Something few people right now see coming.
So I think this will be the number one security investment that companies will make in the coming years. And I think this is going to be the biggest, right? So identity is taking over. And now when agents, like protocols like MCP or Google's agent to agent, kind of all those things become more mainstream, I think the investments in this space has to happen. So I think this is now currently the number one investment customers are making. I think in the future it will be the same, right? So by 20 to 30, this will still remain an unsolved problem, right? So that's kind of the prediction that I can make. And I think there are studies that says with agents, this problem is going to be 40x more. So 2030 is not very far, right? So that's gives us a lot of problem solving and a mission that people should chase to solve. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let us get to the conclusion with the usual questions. Are you open to talk to new investors?
Definitely yes.
Definitely yes. We link down here in the show notes your LinkedIn profile so people can reach out to you directly. And of course, the second question, are you looking for smart people to join UnoSecure?
Also, yes, definitely. We are hiring currently for different roles across Europe. And we will also enter US. So there's a lot of open positions that we want to fill.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Santosh, thank you very much. It was a pleasure having you as a guest. Hope to have you back soon.
Thanks, Joe. Likewise. And thanks for hosting me.
My pleasure.
That's all, folks. Find more news, streams, events, and interviews at www.startuprad.io. Remember, sharing is caring.
Thanks to Nordstellar for supporting this episode. Built by the NordVPN team, Nordstellar helps founders take control before threats escalate. Visit nordstellar.com/startupradio and use code BlackFriday20 for 20% off when talking to sales. Nordstellar, proactive protection for founders who think ahead.